Hello everyone, it's time for another spooky video, a part of Vlogtober. And for tonight's spooky video, I am going to be talking about horror movies that were based on true stories. Now I'm going to be mentioning some of the background stories that kind of inspired some of these horror movies. And I thought that this would be a really good idea because horror movies are scary enough, let alone them being based on something that actually happened in real life. So, yeah, I thought that this would be a great idea. So let's get started. Oh, and there are like tons of horror movies that are based on true stories. So I may have to split this into two parts, but I will be making the videos regardless. The first horror movie that I'm going to be talking about that was based off a true story is The Exorcist. Now, I'm sure you guys have heard a little bit of the background behind The Exorcist and how it kind of came to be. So, The Exorcist was actually based off a young boy named Ronnie Doe, and he was 14 when he was first introduced to the Ouija board by his aunt Tilly. Nobody knows exactly how Ronnie actually got possessed by the Ouija board. It was believed, though, that the ghost of his Aunt Tilly was one of the first spirits to visit him. It wasn't long before this friendly, nice, loving spirit turned into something more dark and sinister. The family first started noticing angry voices and furniture moving across the room. They also started noticing claw marks on Ronnie's body. So they seen no change in his behavior, and they thought it was time to look into getting someone to help them. So they went to St. Louis, Missouri, where they found a priest by the name of Father Bishop. According to Father Bishop, when he first entered the room of Ronnie, he said that Ronnie laid perfectly still on his bed while his bed shook violently underneath him. The bed only stopped when Father Bishop sprayed holy water on the boy. Ronald quickly began experiencing sharp pains on his stomach. His mom pulled up his shirt and the covers to notice claw marks in his midsection. Now we're going to be moving on to my favorite, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Wes Craven actually got the idea for A Nightmare on Elm Street from a newspaper article talking about the mysterious deaths of Southeast Asian refugees. The people fled from their country when their religion was based on a belief that all things possess a spirit. They settled mainly in Minnesota and California. Many of the refugees almost immediately went to doctors to treat outbreaks of imaginary venereal disease and parasites they believed were living under their skin. Eventually, all of these refugees were found dead in their beds, with the actual cause of death being probable cardiac arrhythmia. Another cause of death, though, that the doctors did not want to mention was a syndrome called Oriental Nightmare Death Syndrome. It is now known as sudden unexpected death. This is a condition that seems to affect mostly Hmong, I think I'm saying that right, and Filipino men. They literally die of fear of what they believe is haunting them in their nightmares. In Hmong culture, there is a spirit known as a word that I cannot pronounce, and this is in the form of a jealous woman who takes men to the spirit world as they sleep. Some of these men will actually dress in women's clothing before they go to sleep to try and escape from this woman. In the Philippines, there's also another spirit by another name of which I cannot pronounce, and it's basically another word in Filipino which means nightmare. Basically, it's sleep paralysis. Where they believe that an old hag will come to them in their sleep and sit on their face or their chest and suffocating them to death. The next creepy horror movie that was based on a true story is Child's Play. Chucky was based off an actual haunted doll named Robert, which I have talked about a few times on my channel, and I'm sure if you're a horror movie lover like myself, you knew that by now. Robert is said to have been possessed by an abused female servant who gave this doll to a young child named Eugene. Apparently, this servant was into the art of voodoo, and she somehow possessed Robert before she gave it to Eugene. Now, much like Chucky, Robert has the ability to speak. Eugene's parents would often hear him in his room having a conversation with someone who was not there. And then the most creepiest part of all is that they would hear another voice that was not their child's. Whenever something bad would happen around their home, Eugene would always blame Robert. According to their friends and family, Robert would blink, laugh, even walked around the house when the family wasn't home. The child's parents would often be awoken to Eugene screaming bloody murder, and then when they walk in, Robert is right on the side of his bed. Eugene would always be blamed for knocked over furniture and other bad things that would happen. And then of course there is Annabelle, and I could not make this video without mentioning her. She's my girl, you guys know this by now. And I'm sure you know, if you are a horror fan like myself, the story behind Annabelle, but I'm not going to mention much about Annabelle in this video because I have already made a video on her, so I will be sure to link that in the description in case you haven't seen it or you don't really know the story of Annabelle. But yes, she is based on a true story if you didn't know. So yeah, this was the first part to my horror movies that were based on true stories. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a big old thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you have not already and become a morbid maniac. And feel free to leave me a comment and let me know what you think of these stories. Was there anything that I didn't mention? Feel free to let me know, and I will be posting part 2 tomorrow, so be on the lookout. And I will see you guys in my next video.